So then my friends just before spoke about wisdom, or primordial wisdom, and based on Milarepa's words. And it's very important for us to understand wisdom, or whether we practice according to the new or the old tantras. This wisdom is the essence of the Buddha's omniscient wisdom. It is said within the expanse of primordial wisdom, all the Buddhas are one. And so that is also the meaning of the wisdom being. So it's very important to understand the meaning of wisdom, or primordial wisdom. So during an empowerment, we always mention that there are root samayas and branch samayas. And the root samaya on the relative level is immeasurable love. And then there are many branch samayas. Each deity has their own samaya, their own individual mantra, whether it is in the new or the old tantras. So the scriptures describe many different samayas. So that we can find in the words. But the reason why this is mentioned is because in the noble land of India in the past, in the old days, a person would only practice a single deity and recite a single mantra their entire life. For example, the master Dribupa had attained enlightenment only through the practice of Chakra Samvara. And so this is how the deities are practiced in the old India. And so nowadays, where the Buddha's teachings have spread, and many of the old and the new traditions have spread, there are many different empowerments that are being given. And so, however, even though there are many empowerments, there's only one primordial wisdom. 100 deities have a single life force, which is the root samaya, the relative bodhicitta, immeasurable love. And then the ultimate samaya is that of the wisdom being, which is to meditate on Mahamudra. If you meditate without distraction, then you will never separate from the deity. And so until that has been accomplished, we habituate to visualizing the deity and reciting the mantra. We recite the mantra in order to purify the karmic imprints of speech, of sound. And we visualize the deity to purify the karmic imprints of the body. And then the mental defilements are purified through the relative bodhicitta, whereby self-grasping diminishes. And when it diminishes, the ultimate bodhicitta is naturally realized. So then here it says, thus without needing to invite the deity and so on, if you know your own mind as the deity, this is called the inner tantra of the secret mantra. So if you understand this, then you know that the deity, all the deities, are contained within your own heart. There is no real self. So without needing to invite means that in the secret mantra, there are many different deities. There are infinite deities, but they all have a single essence. And if you understand that, then you have really understood the meaning of the deity practice. So the deity is within yourself. If you don't understand that, then you will perceive all the deities as different, separate entities. For example, sometimes people ask, if I practice green Tara, will the white Tara get angry? So this is just an ordinary thought. If you understand the point being made here, then no matter what group retreat you practice, or no matter what sadhana you practice, you have understood the essence of the deity. And so the essence of the deity, no matter in which tradition you practice, whether it is Sakya, Gelopa, Nyuma, Kagyu, and so on, It's always the same, and it is bodhicitta. Yeshe Tsogyal posed a question to Guru Rinpoche about what the deity is, and he said that it is bodhicitta. So even though there are many different wisdom deities, they all are pervaded by bodhicitta, and there is none of them that is not pervaded by bodhicitta. So therefore, if you have bodhicitta, you have seized the life force of all the deities. So this is how this needs to be understood here. One's own mind is Buddha nature, and that is the deity. So that is what you gain trust in. And so then at this point, then it says here, so here we come to the Amahong Vajra recitation that is related to our breath, the winds. And to stabilize that, there's a practice, and it says, recognize that the wind moving in as the breath is the letter that its resting inside is the letter A, and that its movement out is the letter Hung. Also, we use the Hung syllables, for example, when we confer blessings. We also use the syllables Ram, Yam, Kam. And what is purified here when these blessings are conferred is the notions of a true inherent existence. For example, those dualistic thoughts of this is pure, this is impure, dualistic thoughts of self and other. In reality, pure and impure or clean and dirty do not actually exist. But in order to clear away our fixation to this dualistic truth of pure and impure, we scatter them with wind, and we burn them with fire, and we cleanse them with water, with Ram Yam Kam. So everything is purified into emptiness. So we see that nothing truly exists inherently. So in this way, all grasping and the true existence become purified. And so then the Amahung are the three syllables Amahung are the essence of the enlightened body, speech, and mind of all the Buddhas of the three times. The essence of enlightened body is the essence of enlightened speech is A, and the essence of enlightened mind is Hung. So as we said, we also use Amahung in order to confer blessings. And so a blessing is something that we as ordinary people think we need. We need the blessings of body, enlightened body, speech, and mind. And so then when we think about an enlightened body, an enlightened form, we think about a magnificent, beautiful form that possesses many qualities, such as the major and the minor marks and so on. So we naturally think that. But what it actually refers to is that what the enlightened form is the form that where the mind does not grasp at ordinary form any longer. So enlightened form, to accomplish that, means to not grasp at ordinary form. So the ordinary imprints of perceiving ordinary form must become purified. And when they become purified, you realize that fundamentally the outer universe and sentient beings do not inherently exist. You mentioned that before. This is what needs to be understood. And so even though things are empty temporarily due to confusion, we perceive things as truly substantially existing. And so we speak about the view, meditation, or the practice and the conduct. The view, the view means to understand that things lack inherent existence. That is the understanding. Then the practice is the experience of emptiness. So, for example, when we hear words, we cling to those words. we grasp at them. For example, when you hear something unpleasant, you don't like it. When you hear something pleasant, you like it. So based on sound, you develop thoughts of attachment and aversion. So at that point, what needs to be recognized is the attachment and the aversion that arise. So the essence of enlightened form is and it refers to all appearing objects. And it means to not grasp at these objects. When there's no grasping at form, appearances are empty. There's also this line in the Guru Rinpoche sadhana that we used during the Vajraguru retreat as application to the Guru, where it says, I prostrate to the enlightened form of the Guru that appears yet is empty. So appearance is empty. It appears momentarily, but then again disappears like a bubble on water. So in a moment, momentarily things appear, but they lack any true existence. So appearances are empty. The nature of appearances is empty. The nature of emptiness is appearance. So things can appear, but we can see them, but we should not grasp at their true substantial existence. So they appear, but we recognize their empty nature. And this union of appearance and emptiness is referred to as the Vajra of the body, or the syllable Om. And so with Om, all grasping at form becomes completely empty. All grasping, all concepts of subject and object become empty, transform into the syllable Om. So the inhalation is the letter Om. Then the resting inside is the letter A. And A refers to not grasping at sound. When you do not grasp at sound, you recognize that all sound is empty. And so resting inside is that after the inhalation with then for a little while, you're resting below the navel with A. And below the navel, you visualize a fire flame that has the nature of A. So you rest there for a little while and meditate. And when you rest with at the navel, the fire flame, an experience of bliss may arise. And there are many qualities that arise from the winds abiding at the navel. And there is also much to be said in general about the Om Ahom Vajra recitation. So in any case, with you are resting at the navel and an experience of bliss arises. So then with Hong, it says the movement is out, so you're exhaling with Hong. So together with the exhalation, you think Hong. And the Hong transforms or disperses all dualistic thoughts of subject and objects. All these perceptions of subject and object are destroyed by Hong. Om and Ah are like the branches. So Om and Ah, Om is the empty form, empty appearances, and Ah is empty sounds. So when there is no grasping at forms or sounds, the mind remains empty. Hong destroys all thoughts that arise within the mind. Hong has the power to do that. And Hong is the principal syllable. Om and Am, representing body and speech, are the branch syllables. Hong represents the mind. So with the exhalation, you think Hong, and along with that, half the air, the stale air, goes out, and the other half of the air remains at the point below the navel, unmovingly. It stays there. And staying there the Hung, so part of the Hung has remained in the navel. So then it becomes, the Hung becomes the pulsation that vibrates through your entire body. So there's this natural pulse that you feel, like together with your heartbeat, the Hung, 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 that goes throughout your entire body. So that is the Hung. So with the inhalation, the wind moving in is then the wind abiding is and then the exhalation is Hung. So this is how the Hung Vajra recitation is explained. And so if you understand its meaning, then all form is seen as appearing yet empty, and all sound is heard yet empty, and all thoughts arising in the mind, all thoughts and feelings that arise in the mind are destroyed by Hung. When Hung remains in your mind, it destroys all those thoughts and feelings. So this part here is very meaningful. So for this practice, it can be practiced in two different ways, either with effort or without effort. Without effort means that the wind, the breath just flows naturally. So you just think that this is this is this is Hung. But there is no need to actually retain winds at the navel to do anything at all. So the mind just stays with the breath. And when with the Hung you exhale the air, then the actual power, the potency of the Hung remains below the navel, is held below the navel, and the other half of the stale air goes out. So this is like when you're holding when you're holding a part and so on in the navel, then that is with effort. But effortless is where you just let the breath flow naturally. And also it is a special method to sustain mindfulness. So you're just breathing naturally, remembering the and Hung, but you're just breathing naturally without holding or stopping the breath and so forth. So just remaining mindful of the wind movements, being completely natural and breathing completely in a completely relaxed way, without any effort whatsoever, just thinking it is it is it is Hung. And the reason why this is also effective is because all kinds of thoughts appear in our mind. And when you sustain awareness of Hung, then you will not enter into grasping. You will not pursue these thoughts. So in this way, naturally, the mind remains protected. And then it says, in this way, the 21,600 breaths taken throughout one day all become mantra recitation. So when the wind abides at the navel, then we have said that with the natural pulse, the pulse reverberates with Hung, Hung, Hung throughout your body. The crucial point here is to not be distracted. When you're not distracted, the winds and the mind are unified. When you're not distracted, therefore winds and mind being unified, then naturally the pulsation of the wind has its root in the navel. And so it is said that in a day, there are 21,600 of such movements, wind movements. And all of these wind movements become mantra when the wind energy, when the mind abides at the navel. And then it says, This is called the Rosary-free Recitation, and it is taught by all the classes of the Old and New Tantras. So there are certain practitioners who have attained stability in practice, and they are naturally not distracted and do not follow any of their thoughts. So once one has attained such a stability, such a practitioner actually doesn't at all focus on the wind movements in this way. And for them, actually, sometimes it even happens that sometimes naturally the wind movements even stop for even a long period of time. So if one has reached a level where one is not distracted, then one can just abide within this effortless state without even focusing deliberately on the wind movements. But it's most important to be undistracted. If there is distraction by thoughts, then one should come back to the focus on the wind movements and the Om Ah Hung. But if one is able to abide without distraction and clarity, then it is actually said that it's better to not even focus on the wind movements, to just let them be natural. So when you're practicing meditation, you're able to abide without distraction, then just be effortless and let everything be. But this instruction is important for our daily activities. This is when we should practice the Om Ah Hung, because during our activities, all kinds of thoughts arise and we become unmindful and so on. And we have a lot of things to do, so we cannot hold a mala or recite all kinds of mantras, spin a wheel. So it is especially at that time when we are in our daily activities and easily distracted that the Om Ah Hung practice becomes very important. So then it is if you do not, wait a minute. Also, it is taught by all the classes of New and Old Tantra. So in the secret mantra, in general, there are two paths. There is the swift path and there is the longer path. And the secret mantra is the swift path. And when one practices the relative bodhicitta, it still is a longer path. It takes a few lifetimes to attain enlightenment. So the reason why it takes longer is because there still are those imprints of body and speech. There always is this sense of I, me. In the secret mantra, in the Vajrayana, we visualize the body as the deity and we recite the deity's mantra. And in this way, we purify those imprints of body and speech. And therefore, according to the secret mantra, one can attain enlightenment in a single lifetime. Ideally, one becomes liberated in the first bardo, in the nature of the Dharmakaya, through one's practice of Mahamudra. In the middling case, one attains enlightenment in the nature of the Sambhogakaya, in the second bardo. And that is achieved if in your lifetime you always think of the deity. The deity always appears in your mind, moment by moment, and even appears in your dreams and so on. So you develop such great love for the Hidden Deity, which is just like the love between a mother and her child, that the deity never leaves your mind, is always in your mind. There's one habit that Tibetans have. Whenever they encounter even just the slightest difficulty, they immediately say Tara. They think of Tara and say Tara. And so this is how it should become, because the mind is like a mirror, and whatever you think of will be reflected within it. So after you have died, through the power of the deity's great love and through the power of the deity's great blessings, and also through the power of your own devotion, you attain enlightenment in the Sambhogakaya. And it happens momentarily because after death, the mind has separated from the body, And being separated from the body, whatever the mind thinks of, it will become that instantly after you have died. Right now, when the body and the mind are still together and we are alive and we practice the deity, then sometimes it's more difficult because we still have, we meditate on the deity, we visualize the deity, but then again, there is this physical body that we have, and the feelings generated by the 6 sense consciousnesses and the attachment and so on, this still arises again because we have this body. But then when we die and we go into the bardo, actually the moment the consciousness leaves the body, in that instant, if you just think of the deity, then instantly you become that deity. It is that in an instant, complete awakening is attained. So that's a very important point here. It is very important to remember the Hidden Deity, in particular in all your daily activities. The next page, without parting from the quintessence of practice, visualize the Hidden Deity clearly by having it appear as would a rainbow in the sky. So an example, a deity is said to be just like a rainbow. The appearance of the deity is like a rainbow in the sky. And it is through, in this way, seeing the deity like a rainbow in the sky, that a pure perception also arises with regard to outer appearance that's composed of the 5 elements. So the 5 elements naturally appear clearly. And this clarity aspect is the quality of the Sambhogakaya. So the Dharmakaya is like space, and the Sambhogakaya is like a rainbow in the sky. So it is an outer example. But then you shouldn't think that, oh, a rainbow is a rainbow and a deity is a deity. They're not actually separate. So a rainbow is the pure essence of the 5 elements. So when the 5 elements, the pure essence of the 5 elements manifests in the sky, it appears as 5 colored rainbows. And that actually is the nature. It is the pure essence of the elements, which is the nature of the deity, the Sambhogakaya. So we have said it is all interconnected. On the outer level are the 5 elements, and within the minds of beings are the 5 afflictive emotions. But when the mind matures, the 5 afflictions become the 5 wisdoms. And the 5 wisdoms are the 5 Buddhas. So appearance in the mind is the 5 Buddhas. Appearance on the outer level are the 5 female Buddhas. So a rainbow appears, but it lacks any inherent essence. It is the union of the male and the female Buddhas, union of appearance and emptiness. So this actual nature is shown to us by a rainbow. So therefore, we should see a rainbow really as the actual manifestation of the deity. So the deity in the Sambhogakaya is a pure illusory form. When all grasping at a concrete, substantial existence is purified, then form transforms into pure illusory form. And the rainbow is a pure illusory form, the form of the deity. So when you practice a deity, when you visualize a deity, see it in this way. So then you take an image of the deity, you look at the image, then you close your eyes and you have the image appear in your mind. And what appears then in your mind is the actual deity. So when you have your eyes closed and you meditate, sometimes it even seems as though the building around you has completely disappeared and your mind becomes just like space. And so, then you might wonder. So don't think about the Hidden Deity as something that is actually really there, like a substantial thing that appears somewhere. When you bring the deity to mind again and again, where does it really appear? It's within your within your own mind. So it is your own mind, not an external entity. What appears is your own mind, and it is the actual deity. It is just that it appears when you think of the deity, but if you forget about it, then it doesn't appear. But it's still your own mind. So then, but then you might think, so it's just, a deity is my mind. So it's not just like that, because your mind is also not this solid entity, but your mind is like space. Your mind and space are not separate. But there's no difference between your mind and space. So it is within this space mind that the form of the deity appears, the pure illusory form of the deity, which appears just like a rainbow in the sky. In the Dzogchen practice, we practice Togal, or a crossing over, a direct crossing. And when we practice Togal and we practice various gazing practices, we look at the sky, and we might see rainbow-like shapes and windows, light forms. And actually that's something that also some science has investigated and has seen. There's this like spheres of light in space, but then it is not actually separate from us. And in a Dzogchen practice, when we perceive the appearance of these light spheres and rainbow-like spheres, these are the natural reflection of one's own mind, and are the pure essence of the 5 elements, which is very meaningful, very important to understand. So the appearance of the rainbow is the refined essence, the pure essence of the elements. The elements, therefore, by nature, are the deity. And so from within that space, then there's also no difference between like the male and the female Buddhas, the deities, and so forth. So don't think of them as being like people, male and female, and so on. But they represent the refined, pure essence of the mind and the elements. So as Dhammaratsa had said before, see all appearance and existence as the deity. So on the outer level, the 5 elements and the inner afflictive emotions and the secret 5 wisdoms are all interconnected. In terms of they're not being inner and outer. And that is what is meant by the representation of the Yap and the Yum. The union of Yap and Yum represent the union of appearance and emptiness, appearing yet empty of self-nature. When you do not grasp at appearances, then the mind can just dwell in a state of ease. And from within that state arises an experience of great bliss. For example, an ordinary example is that if you think of a loving friend, a companion, then a feeling of bliss arises. But this is just an example of the actual state of the mind. So when the mind is free of all grasping, and there is no belief in a grasping at a true substantial reality, when there's no grasping whatsoever, the mind abides in a state of great bliss. And so the bliss arises due to not grasping. So in brief, it is a quality of emptiness. It is through remaining empty without grasping that great bliss arises. So what arises, therefore, is recognized as a projection, and a natural projection of one's own mind. And then in order to tame sentient beings, the Sambhogakayas and the Nirmanakayas naturally manifest out of great compassion. So the Sambhogakaya manifestation is a manifestation of compassion appearing like a rainbow in the sky. And even the rainbow themselves should be seen as the manifestations of the deity. If you are able to see it that way, a pure perception regarding the outer environment arises. And then practice in your mind becomes easy. You see everything in such a pure way, and certainty is gained. So this is a very important point. This is how we should see rainbows too.